my name's Christine Murray. I'm an architecture writer and equity campaigner with 20 years of experience as an editor in built environment journalism. And I'm the director of the Festival of Place and editor-in-chief of The Developer. Welcome to Festival of Place Social Impact. This is a learning event, and it's your opportunity to hear from experts and professionals about how we can make a meaningful impact on places. All of our content today has focused a little bit more closely on housing, specifically creating affordable and quality homes, from place-based impact investing to caps in the market and evolving stories in that space. This session builds on this learning as we look at the impact of housing on residents at 3 built-to-rent developments. All of our sessions are recorded and available to stream live or play back via the schedule button, which is top right. And a reminder that we'll be taking your questions a little bit later. You can put them in the Q&A tab in the chat panel. And please feel free to use the emoji button to cheer on our speakers and share your reactions. All of their slides and links are available in the resources tab. So if you would like to download the slides for reference or to share with colleagues, you'll find them in the tab available for download now. We rely on our sponsors and organization members to keep our events accessible and our journalism barrier-free. So thank you to LDA Design, who are proud supporters of this event, and thank you to our organization members for their continued support. In this session, we are learning from research. We have Matthew Morgan, Director and co-founder of the Quality of Life Foundation, with us. Matthew is responsible for setting strategy with the Board of Trustees, overseeing the Foundation's commercial services, and delivering lasting impact with the Quality of Life team, itself focused on highlighting the impact of the built environment on people's lived experience. It's something that I care deeply about, and I know Matthew shares that passion. He has over 20 years experience in writing and communications and has previously worked with writers, architects, engineers, and developers in books and magazine publishing with charities and startups. He is a participant on a number of advisory boards and chairs a multi-stakeholder group that advises on community engagement as part of the UKRI-funded CCQOL, and that stands for Community Consultation for Quality of Life Project. Matthew, welcome.
Hello, Christine.
I'm really interested. I mean, as you know, we wrote an article about the research that you're presenting today. I'm really interested to hear about these communities and what you learned. So I'm going to pass that over to you, but we'll be back for a discussion and Q&A with you after you've shared your findings.
Thank you, Christine. And good afternoon, everyone else. My name is Matthew Morgan. I'm the director and co-founder of the Quality of Life Foundation. So this presentation will share insights from our new report assessing the social impact of build-to-rent developments on residents and local communities. The report is the result of a collaboration between Quality of Life Foundation, BPF, the ARL, and 3 build-to-rent developer operators, with a shared goal of understanding how the build-to-rent sector impacts residents and communities. The context for this report is that the UK is facing a profound housing crisis, with increasing demand for homes that meet the needs of diverse populations. The build-to-rent sector offers a promising model as part of a mixed tenure communities, because it combines high-quality housing with long-term stewardship through the use of institutional investment. The report takes the first steps to evaluate the sector's impact, focusing on how it supports residents' health, well-being, and sense of community. And our aim was to provide evidence and actionable recommendations for policymakers, developers, and investors. Our approach to data collection was threefold. First, we conducted desk research to get an understanding of the green and social infrastructure that had been delivered as a result of each site. Then we visited each site to develop our understanding and to make contact with local site leads and key stakeholders. Then we opened a digital survey for 3 months and conducted face-to-face interviews with both residents and members of the local community, and then did the analysis and reporting, which hopefully ensured that our findings reflected both measurable outcomes and the nuanced experiences of residents and peoples neighbouring the developments. The foundation of the research is the quality of life framework, which guides how we evaluate housing developments. The framework identifies 6 key themes: sense of control, health equity, connection to nature, a sense of wonder, getting around with ease, and connected communities, all of which are critical to creating homes and neighbourhoods that support long-term well-being. We use the framework in this research to provide a structured lens for evaluating residents' and communities' experiences, with general place and well-being questions and specific questions set against each theme and sub-theme, using questions that are benchmarkable against national data sets and others that are specific to our survey. The aim of this is to ensure a focus on long-term health and well-being. It also allows us to highlight specific areas where housing developments are excelling and where improvements are needed. So the first place that we visited and talked to residents was East Village in Stratford. It's the most established neighbourhood of those that we looked at, with the first residents having moved in 2013. A third of residents we surveyed had lived in East Village for 3 years or more. Originally delivered to house the athletes taking part in the London 2012 Olympics, East Village has since been expanded into a large community. It's home to over 30 independent retailers, as well as Cobham Academy, a health centre, and a dentist, alongside a broad range of both public and private green spaces. East Village is close to the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park and also the Westfield shopping. So connections to the rest of London are via DLR, the Overground, Elizabeth Line, Central Line, Jubilee Line, and National Rail. The Creative Hub at Lab E20 has provided a hub for creatives, cultural and environmental organisations. And at the end of 2022, Get Living began working with Hypha Studios, a charity matching creators with empty spaces for free to convert a former Sainsbury's store into a creative space for emerging design talent. East Village is also the home for local organisations such as DLab, CIC, that aims to improve access to the relevant skills to help tackle climate change. And programme and activities at East Village have looked to residents and the wider community and cover an array of clubs, groups and classes such as mental health clinics, fitness clubs and salsa classes. In 2024, Get Living's community funds, inspiring community funds, granted £80,000 to organisations local to Stratford, Salford, Maidenhead and Lewisham, working with Action Funder. Second of the sites we visited was in West London. It's Greenford Quay. The director operator was Greystar, and it's on the site of a former pharmaceutical laboratory. The first block at Greenford Quay, Tillerman's Court, opened in 2020, with more residents moving into the next block, Lions Dock, in 2022. Planning to deliver just under 2,000 homes. It's bisected by the Grand Union Canal and has a selection of ground floor units that include a cooperative supermarket and a Starbucks cafe. It's well connected to the rest of London, with Sudbury Hill Piccadilly line to the north and Greenford Central line to the south. The surrounding neighbourhood is relatively low density housing, with a few industrial units, mostly distribution centres, directly to the south and southwest of the site. To the east of Greenford Quay is the Horsenden Hill Nature Reserve, which is the largest single nature conservation site in the Borough of Ealing. At the time of the research, residents were moving into the Glassworks building, and there were some vacant plots yet to be built on. These include many of the affordable homes that will be provided as part of the overall development. The public realm provision at Greenford Quay is generous, and the access generated through opening up the site has provided many benefits to the local residents. By the time it's complete, Greenford Quay will deliver an estimated 2,500 square metres of new play spaces, and the development also increased the provision of bike parking, and there are 400 additional trees. Events to engage the wider community are varied, with some film screenings in the summer months and seasonal events such as Christmas dinners. The Gessner is the smallest of the developments that we surveyed, which welcomed residents in 2021. So it's also the most recent of the 3 sites, with 75% of the residents surveyed living at the site for less than a year. It's situated in the busy area of Tottenham Hale and provides 164 homes, office units and retail spaces. It also has a public square which is tucked away from the A1055 directly to the east. Residents and guests now have access to rooftop garden, fitness centre, co-working spaces and communal lounges. A few minutes walk to the east is the Paddock Community Nature Park, bordered by the River Lee, comprising woodlands, scrubs, meadow and ponds. And to the north of the Gessner, Down Lane Park provides green spaces for play with outdoor gym equipment, tennis courts and a BMX track. The Gessner is close to Tottenham Hale, which is serviced by the Victoria National Rail and Stansted Express lines, and Tottenham Hale bus station. Initiatives and events have focused largely on healthy lifestyles and overall well-being of residents. And these programs have been used by Way of Life as an opportunity to establish partnerships with local businesses. The immediate context and situation as a single building provides a different proposition in terms of the provision of space for the wider community, but there has been investment in public green space, and since the survey, a coffee shop has opened. The Gessner has partnered with a local community hub, Living Under One Sun, which is a charity that aims to deliver frontline community-led services to the people of Tottenham. So we'll now delve into some of the findings of the report. Some of the most striking findings were the strong links identified between build-to-rent developments and both resident satisfaction and resident well-being. Almost 89% of the residents were satisfied with their homes, which is a marked improvement on satisfaction with homes in the private rented sector more generally. And 81.7% of residents said their homes positively impact their health and well-being. Some of the reason given for these high scores included features such as green space, well-maintained communal areas, and professional property management. Typical of them, a comment from a female, 25, 29 years old. Well-being has improved dramatically for me since I've moved here. The area is so nice and it makes me excited to get up and out of the house in the morning. The green and natural spaces provided by these developments were particularly highly valued by residents as well as by local communities. This is also true of the walking and cycling infrastructure that the developments provide. These findings, along with align with the connection to nature and getting around with ease themes in the quality of life framework, showing how the environment outside of a person's home can impact on their experience of that home. The data also suggests that there is a level of stability that can come from living in a built-to-rent home, aligning with the sense of control theme of the framework, as it reflects the security residents feel in their homes. 60% of residents have lived in their development for over a year, and 25% for 3 years or more. This is a slightly lower average than the average length of tenancies in the private rental sector as a whole, which stands at around 4 years. But some of these BTR developments are still very new, so these stats are not entirely comparable. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over time on the 3 developments as they age. Our research highlighted the significant role that BTR developments can play in fostering community cohesion. Over 71% of residents agreed that their local area is a place where people from different backgrounds get on well together, and this sentiment was echoed by 67.7% of the wider community, demonstrating the positive impact these developments have beyond their immediate boundaries. Additionally, nearly 58% of the wider community surveyed reported participating in events hosted by the build-to-rent developments, showing how these spaces can serve as hubs for communication, for connection and engagement. These findings align strongly with the connected communities theme of the framework, illustrating how thoughtful design and programming can bridge diverse groups and create inclusive communities. While residents and communities shared a lot of positive views about the developments we explored, there was still room for improvement in the model. Across all 3 sites, there were shared calls for greater proximity to cheaper food options and larger local supermarkets, as well as medical facilities like GP surgeries. This was further stressed by residents when we asked them open-ended questions about their access to healthy food options, where responses also highlighted the absence of the supermarkets and, by extension, the absence of cheaper food options in their local area. Although resident feedback reflected a positive feeling around the thermal performance of their homes during the cold winter months, this performance was tempered by comments that pointed out overheating that can take place during the warmer summer months. Many homes in these developments struggle to maintain comfortable indoor temperatures during summer, pointing to a need for more climate-responsive design solutions. It should be noted that this issue is not confined to the BTR sector, but it is increasingly important as we face rising global temperatures and more frequent heat waves. Addressing this issue would not only improve residents' well-being, but also align with sustainability goals and energy efficiency standards. And they're critical in ensuring that homes within build-to-rent developments remain comfortable and livable all year round. Another important area for improvement were feelings of safety, which were raised as concern by residents and members of the wider community, particularly regarding public spaces at night. Perception of safety is crucial for ensuring that these spaces are fully used and that residents feel secure in their homes and neighbourhoods. Among the factors affecting these perceptions were of high levels of crime, low levels of lighting, and less frequented or surveyed routes leading to and around the developments. But it is important to note that these factors were not an issue at every site, highlighting the need for localised solutions through more specific consultation and evaluation. The report offers a set of practical recommendations to help developers maximise the positive impact of build-to-rent while addressing the areas for improvement identified in the research. The first of these were maintaining and enhancing communal spaces. So developers are encouraged to preserve and improve high-quality communal public spaces in their schemes. These spaces should continue to be activated through events and programming, which have also been proven to foster community cohesion and enhance residents' sense of belonging. The research demonstrates the positive impact of access to green and blue spaces on residents' well-being, so developers should prioritise the inclusion of these features in future schemes, ensuring they're designed to be accessible, inviting, and functional for a range of activities from relaxation to exercise. Addressing concerns around safety are obviously important. Recommendations include improving lighting, designing layouts to reduce hidden areas, and incorporating community-driven solutions to promote a sense of ownership and security. These measures not only address perceptions of crime, but also make public spaces more welcoming and inclusive. And affordable amenities and infrastructure. Many residents and community members expressed a desire for more affordable options for everyday essentials such as cafes, shops and supermarkets, as well as better access to medical facilities. So developers are encouraged to work with local authorities and businesses to integrate these services into developments, ensuring they meet the needs of both residents and the wider community. Play spaces are essential for supporting the physical and mental health of children and young people, as well as fostering social interaction and connection within communities. So providing safe, inclusive and stimulating play areas can help make developments more family friendly and create a sense of belonging for families. This is something that respondents valued highly in the developments we explored. By continuing to invest in high quality play spaces, developers demonstrate a commitment to enhancing the lives of younger residents while supporting long-term community cohesion. Developers should look at ways to minimize noise and traffic in surrounding areas, such as advocating for improved cycling and walking infrastructure or implementing measures to reduce through traffic. These changes not only improve the livability of the development, but also benefit the surrounding neighbourhoods. These recommendations are not only about addressing challenges, they're about ensuring that build-to-rent development set a standard for creating homes and communities that enhance quality of life. By adopting the practices, developers can demonstrate their commitment to long-term stewardship and social value, which are key to the sector's continued success and evolution. So a summary of the research, the report marks an important first step in understanding the social impact of the build-to-rent sector and shows the value of collaboration across the private sector to drive improvement and deliver greater social value. The findings provide a model for evaluating impact, which we hope can be replicated across the housing sector to inform better practices. Crucially, this involves talking to people about their lived experiences, not just allocating figures as proxies for social value. Build to rent isn't and can't be the sole solution to the housing crisis, but it does have a vital role to play as part of a diverse mix of housing options, including social housing, homes for sale, and community-led housing. And this is just the beginning. Further research and engagement are needed to deepen our understanding of how build to rent and other housing developments can better tackle the UK's housing and health challenges. But we hope that the research inspires good practice within the sector and across the wider development industry, helping to create homes and neighbourhoods that address these challenges more effectively. By continuing to collaborate and share insights, we can drive progress and innovation in housing development. And I think now, hopefully we can open up to questions from you or the audience, Christine.
Absolutely. So I will kick off, but if you have questions for Matthew, please put them in the Q&A tab, and I'll be monitoring that now. I found this study really interesting. I'm so pleased to have you here to share it with us. One of the things that stood out for me, which you mentioned, was that safety, and especially the gender divide on that safety, with women feeling more unsafe in these areas at night. And one question I had about that was, I mean, you compared it to the national statistic. How different, or did you know how different that was to people in the surrounding areas of the development? You know, was that parallel, or was this unique to the people living on the built to rent?
I think it
property?
is. I think it was an issue shared not in all locations, but within those neighbourhoods and touching on the surrounding neighbourhoods. So it was something voiced by both residents and members of the local community as to where they live. We kind of draw a 15-minute walking radius around the development to determine whether people are from the development or the local community. So that's what we see as the local area, and that's the area that we defined as having these issues. So it's the kind of the development themselves and that area around.
And then it does seem really powerful that, you know, that first of all, that approach of beyond the red line of the site, what is the immediate impact, and the positive impact around the amenities provided on site, being able to serve this wider community. Did you see that as one of the maybe greatest benefits of these new developments? Was their ability to create community spaces or communal spaces that bring the wider neighborhood together?
I think definitely it's the first time that we've managed to do a survey like this that takes in or that goes outside the red boundary. We have carried out a number of post-occupancy evaluations for developers and housing associations, but they've sat very much within the red line with residents. And what we really wanted to do here was to extend the reach of the project and talk to local community members. And it was pretty resounding how important that provision of public green and blue space was, and in particular how the use of these former industrial sites opened up a whole pathways through a neighbourhood, connecting communities to places that they just wouldn't have been able to get to before and wouldn't have had access through that site. So in that sense, they were, I think that's probably the greatest benefit that we saw. And then combined with that, it worked most successfully when the build to rent operators started to put on events and started to program events that brought people into that space, so that it's making it clear to the local community that it's for them as well. And I think it's that provision of public good as well as the obvious benefits of living in a build-to-rent block that you start to see the real benefits of the local area. So our kind of number one ask of build-to-rent developments is really to think carefully about that public space and make sure that it's prioritized and it is valued as, you know, an intrinsic part of the development, and it's not just about that building, but it's about how it sits within its context and how it can improve its context as best as possible.
And while you might have this reaction to the kind of safety reaction to say, oh, okay, well, let's close it in. Actually, that's not the solution. That's kind of positive and beneficial. It's like, let's think about roots through, let's think about activating this space, you know, more. Because I could imagine that tension being around the reaction being like, oh, perhaps we need to, you know, increase security of the space or, you know, gate the development. But actually, what you're saying is the opposite is true. Its benefit is in those interconnections, in those through pathways, and then just making sure you don't have dead space, non-overlooked space, you know, spaces that are badly lit.
Good lighting, good all of those things, and
connectivity. You mentioned it briefly, affordability being a key challenge. I know the report showed that many of the tenants do question the affordability of their rent that they are currently paying. Did you see that as just the rental market as it was? Is that particular to this build-to-rent community, or is it just everyone in London would say that their rent is not particularly affordable?
I think affordability is a massive issue for the whole of the rental sector. We're hoping to look at this more closely in a subsequent piece of research, but it does feel like that we're talking about a spectrum of affordability that runs through the rental system, with social rent on one side, and then some of the abuses in the private rental sector in the other end of the spectrum. And I think that what's interesting with the potential for build to rent is how and where it sits within that spectrum, and how it can accommodate both the more expensive end, but then start to bring in key workers to more affordable units, such as is happening in the Gessner. So they have a rents for key workers, but the Greystar development has whole blocks that are for affordable housing, and they, as part of the programming, haven't yet been instigated, but they're the next phases. So it's how they can accommodate affordable housing and make that as part of the community, and make it, because our desire is to see mixed tenure communities, so that they're not of one type or another, but that they can accommodate a range of rental options. And I think that that's the ideal, that these communities can enable that for a broad range of housing provision.
You mentioned the thermal performance of the buildings, and that this was, you know, broadly positive when it came to heating. We'll turn to the overheating issues in a moment, but on that, was that something that increased, you know, well-being as far as you could see? Was that playing into this sense of happiness? This, you know, the fact that, you know, the kind of thermal performance of the building was not a stressor in terms of heating at this time of, you know, fuel price sensitivity?
I think that was okay. We didn't get. We got generally positive feedback about that. We also ask about affordability in two separate parts. One is in rent and one is bills. So that was okay, but it was and they're comfortable places to live. They were, you know, the response to the actual home as a dwelling was positive. You know, they're good places to live. But I think that the issue came, as it does with lots of apartment living in the summer months, when temperatures go up, and we're seeing real challenges with thermal performance in those months. And I think what has been interesting about the discussions that we've had since, how the build-to-rent operators, because they're vested in the well-being of their residents, how they're trying to find different ways of dealing with that, because it's something that all of these larger blocks and apartment buildings are facing as we see a change in the climate, and temperatures do go up more acutely in the summer months. So the provision of fans or shades or whatever can be done to remedy that.
So would you say that was the biggest surprise for them coming out of this research, or what were the things that really struck them in terms of tackling?
I think it the thermal performance, questions of safety, and the affordability are the probably the three biggest issues. But I think often these surveys will highlight things that are already, that developers or operators are already aware of. But it just helps often those working at the coalface to bring attention to issues that can then be kind of ramped up the importance of others in the business, or it can bring attention to something that can then be addressed or hopefully remedied.
I've talked to people in the build to rent sector before about this, about the fact that tenancy turnover is a major consideration. You talked about the duration of their tenancies and how these developments are quite young. Is that a major driver for quality in this sector? Is vacancy and turnover?
Yeah, that's one of the determining measure, or if there's a key measure of success for the build to rent sector, then it's how long people will stay within a development, and how secure they feel, and how much of a home they can make there. And that has to do with the basic quality of the house or the home. The home, obviously, in apartments, but now single family renting is starting to bring more housing into the build to rent market. So it's the quality of the home, but also the quality of the area, and so it starts to build a picture for the same as anyone, wherever they live, of what is a home and what's a nice place to live. And if it's obviously somewhere where you do feel you can put down roots and create a life for yourself, then you have that sense of belonging, and with that sense of belonging comes attachment to a potential more secure revenue for the build to rent operator. And given that they're institutional and generally a slightly different portion of the investment market than goes into the traditional volume house building sector of the market, it's one that's thinking not in terms of the last 5 years or the kind of next 6 months, or what it's thinking kind of 5 years ahead, and that tends to be a slightly healthier view of what someone's, how a place might be performing. It's obviously not necessarily the 20 or 30 years that we'd all like to see in terms of stewardship, but I think it's closer to that kind of thinking that will hopefully affect the way that these places are delivered.
You mentioned briefly play provision. How did that kind of come about as being something that you felt was recommended? I mean, where did the results around play provision come out in the survey?
Just from people's responses. We have a section in the framework which is about playfulness, and that's for children and adults. So it's that ability to find spaces for play, for getting out and enjoying the area. And I think that where efforts has been made to provide those play spaces, it's really appreciated. And that was shown by people's responses that they really valued those. And I think the efforts that in Greenford Quay, they're building a lot of play space, and you can see it, it's visible, it's very much integrated into the development, and that makes it feel like a nice place to live, because you've got kids who are running around and enjoying it. So it makes a big difference.
Food security comes up, the affordability of food provision. I was kind of surprised by that because, I mean, I think we always think of these developments going up with kind of a mixed use or some kind of commercial space in them. Was it just the sense that there were commercial spaces there, but they were priced, not accordingly, or what, or is it that supermarkets are not particularly interested in having, large sites in these new developments?
They're the small supermarkets that you see everywhere. So they're your normal Co-op or Sainsbury's or whatever it is, but they're the smaller version. And I think what people always want is a massive mega store on their doorstep to do the the cheap weekly shop or whatever. And if you have to get on a bus or in a car or whatever it is to get to them, then that's an inconvenience. But that's something that we see in a lot of developments, that there is a provision for that smaller supermarket on site, but it's obviously slightly to the whim of context and position in terms of relation to those bigger units that you can, you're not necessarily right on the doorstep of a bigger supermarket. So, and whether some of those units, like if you're putting a Starbucks in or something, then you're going to be paying whatever the market rate for a coffee is. So it's how you can balance having a commercial unit that is rented, which is really important, but then how you cater to everyone's price point is, it's obviously a challenge, because the commercial units that you're looking at are working on market rates, and unless you subsidize those in some way, then it's difficult to know how you can manage that. So I don't know what the answer is to that.
Markets, presumably. I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing that these are developments that are not, they don't have a kind of fruit and veg market around the corner. Or I mean, they're obviously highlighting some kind of gap there. So, but I guess the assumption I can make from the responses is that there is a maybe disappointment around those kind of hyper local provision. But it feels like a difficult one to address.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were to have a market on the doorstep, what kind of market would it be? Because if it's a farmer's market, you're not going to address affordability, because you're going to be
affordability.
£10 for a bunch of organic carrots. So I don't know whether that's going to be the answer. I think what people are looking for is that cheap weekly shop on their doorstep, and you're just not going to have that everywhere.
No, it doesn't feel like an easy thing to fix. That certainly feels like much harder to tackle, perhaps, than some of the other issues, unless you are willing to, as you said, cross-subsidize, so that you get kind of a subsidized trader in there to give some kind of affordable provision. GP surgeries you mentioned as well. That comes up all the time in our place tests, in our coverage, the sense that this new communities come in, but developers always speak about how difficult it is actually to just get a GP surgery to open on a new site or near a new site, even if they do provide space for them. So I was not surprised to see that, but how great was the feeling and the frustration around that? I mean, dentists is another one, I think, that comes up quite a bit.
I think it's a general frustration that we all face with the decrepitude of the GP provision in this country. And I think that it's a real challenge Section 106 or whatever the mechanism is for introducing it, because it has to do with the local population. It has to do with the GP having the, finding a GP who actually wants to set up in that area, or it is tough, and dentists is even worse. So again, it's similar to the bigger supermarket or cheaper food. It's an absolute necessary, but how you provide for that as a part of the core social provision, I don't know what the answer is to that. I think what you can do and what all should do is to provide a basis for some social interaction, which is a coffee shop. There should be some way of buying food in a local area, and I think that a supermarket or the equivalent is probably a good provision. And I think some, particularly in the large developments, a community area that is open to the local population as well, so that it starts to build those links in and through and create some of that community cohesion. So I think there are mechanisms that you can find to improve these places, but it's I think there are elements like GPs or dentists that are really tough to build into the whole scheme.
So we just have a few minutes left. I think it'd be really good to hear about next steps for the Quality of Life Foundation, other things you're working on, and what's coming up for you.
Our next project, which is incredibly exciting, we haven't announced it yet, so a bit of an exclusive, but we're working on a tool for registered providers, housing associations and local authorities, and it's a way for convening local residents in neighbourhood panels and with them to create a sense of the strengths in an area, the needs in an area, and the priorities for that area, so that they can hopefully start to shape the changes that might be made. And we're working with 6 registered providers with funding from Fusion 21. So it's a big old project working across 6 neighbourhoods across the UK, and very excited to be working on that over the summer.
Great. So you'll be making those recommendations, and you'll be also doing, is it 6 pilots then in neighborhoods that you're
Yes.
running?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to having you back to talk about that in future.
Great.
But as it stands right now, we didn't get any questions from the audience. I imagine that means your research was completely delivered, and I really enjoyed discussing it with you. And that just leaves me to say thank you for your contribution today.
Thank you very much, Christine. Much appreciated. Thank you for inviting me.
So that concludes today's programming, which, as I said, was a focus on housing. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. We're going to be kicking off and picking up on that urban safety at night finding from Quality of Life Foundation. Actually, we're going to be starting at 11 a.m. with Scottish Greens councillor Holly Bruce. She is the councillor for Langside, Glasgow City Council, and is going to be sharing feminist urban planning, infrastructure, and social equity. They are doing some really exciting things in Glasgow. We're going to continue throughout tomorrow with the theme of spatial equity. We're going to be hearing from Catherine Manning on impact measurement. We're going to be hearing about amplifying marginalized voices with Dr. Julia King, and LDA Design's Sophie Thompson is going to be here discussing their work in creating infrastructure for social impact, in particular areas at risk of flooding, and how to make sure you deliver above and beyond for the people who live in these places. So hope to see you then for more exciting learning. In the meantime, if you've missed anything today or you want to plan your day for tomorrow, please use the schedule button to see what's on and to play back, and do share with colleagues, let them know. And that's all from me today, but I will see you back here tomorrow.